What if I told you that the British monarchy, the institution that has shaped centuries of history, tradition, and diplomacy, has just taken a step that many thought impossible? Imagine the headlines tomorrow, the whispers in every royal corridor, the stunned faces of palace aides, courtiers, and even global leaders. Tonight, in what can only be described as a seismic shift in royal history, Prince William made an announcement that has left the entire royal family, the public, and royal watchers around the world in absolute shock. And at the center of this historic moment, none other than Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and their children, Archie and Lilibet, whose names have suddenly vanished from the line of succession, their royal privileges stripped away, and their connection to the monarchy forever altered. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. It was a scene that seemed almost cinematic in its gravitas. Buckingham Palace, usually a bastion of measured decorum and understated announcements, was alive with tension. The kind of tension that only comes when a decision is made that will ripple through generations. Prince William appeared before the cameras, his expression calm but resolute, every word weighed carefully, yet carrying the unmistakable weight of finality. No euphemisms, no softening of the blow, just a declaration that would mark a turning point in the monarchy's history. Harry and Meghan, and their children, are permanently removed from succession and will no longer enjoy royal privileges. The shock was immediate. Across the United Kingdom, televisions flickered with the announcement, social media exploded with reactions, and the eyes of the world turned, collectively holding their breath. This was not just another royal story or a tabloid scandal. This was a formal, unprecedented restructuring of the royal family's hierarchy. The significance was staggering. No family in the public eye has ever faced such a deliberate, official severing of ties without precedent in the modern era. Questions immediately emerged. What led to this decision? What will it mean for the children? How will this reshape the monarchy's public image, both at home and abroad? And most importantly, what happens now to the couple who once captured the imagination of millions with their romance, charm, and the promise of a new chapter in royal history? To truly understand the gravity of tonight's announcement, we need to step back and look at the sequence of events that led the monarchy to make what many insiders are calling a historic and irrevocable decision. The story is not just about the individuals involved. It is about decades of tradition, protocol, and the delicate balancing act that is the British royal family. The monarchy, while steeped in ceremonial grandeur and historical weight, has never been immune to conflict, division, or scandal. Yet even in a lineage that has weathered wars, divorces, abdications, and public controversies, the formal removal of a line of succession is a move so unprecedented that it has left historians, royal commentators, and the global public scrambling to grasp its implications. Over the past several years, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have emerged as one of the most polarizing figures in the royal family. Their marriage was celebrated globally, a seemingly modern love story bridging American celebrity with centuries-old British tradition. Millions watched as Harry and Meghan navigated their courtship, wedding, and early days in royal life with grace, style, and charisma. But beneath the polished appearances and public statements, tensions were quietly simmering. Palace insiders and leaked reports have long hinted at friction. Differences in expectations, clashes with long-established protocols, and, most notably, repeated disagreements over how the couple wished to balance public duty with personal autonomy. While Harry's outspoken memoirs, candid interviews, and media appearances seemed to champion transparency and personal truth, they also placed immense pressure on the monarchy, shining a spotlight on private disputes and reigniting public debate about the relevance and role of modern royals. Meghan, in particular, became a lightning rod for media scrutiny. The narrative around her shifted almost daily, from celebrated modernizing influence to a figure accused by critics of destabilizing tradition. From subtle power plays within palace corridors to highly publicized confrontations, the Sussexes' journey has been anything but ordinary. And as their influence grew, so did the friction with senior members of the family, particularly Prince William, who has historically positioned himself as the protector of royal protocol, tradition, and the institution itself. As tensions escalated, speculation about the Sussexes' future within the monarchy intensified. Public appearances became fraught with awkward moments. Behind-the-scenes reports suggested staff turnover, strained relationships, and secret meetings aimed at resolving disputes. Financial arrangements, security provisions, and charitable responsibilities, all once carefully managed under the royal umbrella, became points of negotiation, controversy, and, ultimately, contention. Even before tonight's announcement, whispers of a potential formal severance had circulated among royal commentators. Yet no one could have predicted the finality, the clarity, and the decisiveness of Prince William's words today. This was not a temporary suspension, a gentle nudge, or a suggestion to reconsider. It was an official, binding declaration that Harry, Meghan, and their children would no longer hold a place in the monarchy. To appreciate the significance of this moment, one must consider the weight of the British line of succession. Every name, every title, and every privilege represents centuries of history, tradition, and national identity. Removing someone from this line is not merely a bureaucratic adjustment. It is a symbolic act of exclusion from a family, an institution, and a legacy that has shaped the nation's cultural and political landscape for generations. For Archie and Lilibet, the consequences are profound. Stripped of their positions in the line of succession, their titles revoked, and their association with royal privilege severed, they face a future that will forever differ from the path once envisioned for them. Public perception, educational opportunities, ceremonial roles, and even security arrangements are all subject to change as a result of this decision. And for Harry and Meghan, it marks a new chapter defined by loss, adaptation, and, according to palace sources, profound personal reflection. But tonight is not only about the personal impact on the Sussexes. It is about the broader implications for the monarchy, the media, and the global public who follow every move of the royal family. Prince William's announcement sends a clear message. While modernization and individual autonomy are celebrated, there is a boundary that cannot be crossed without consequence. The monarchy is an institution designed to endure beyond individual personalities, and maintaining its continuity and authority sometimes requires decisions that, while difficult, are deemed necessary to protect its integrity. In this sense, the announcement is as much about preserving the future of the monarchy as it is about responding to past conflicts and tensions. Inside the palace, the announcement sent shockwaves that reverberated through every corridor, office, and private chamber. Courtiers who had spent decades managing royal protocol were suddenly confronted with an unprecedented reality. Some whispered in disbelief. Others consulted historical records, desperate to find a precedent, yet there was none. A senior aide reportedly described the mood as electric, tense, and utterly transformative. Meetings were hastily convened. Advisors conferred in hushed tones, and legal teams began preparing for the cascade of consequences that would inevitably follow such a monumental decision. Every detail mattered. The phrasing of press releases, the careful management of royal social media channels, and the coordination with security and charitable foundations to ensure a seamless, though seismic, transition. The global media instantly picked up the story, and the reaction was swift, polarized, and intense. Headlines splashed across front pages, social media feeds were flooded with commentary, and live coverage streamed continuously from London, New York, Los Angeles, and beyond. Analysts debated whether the decision reflected a personal rift between William and Harry, a strategic move to protect the monarchy, or a combination of both. Royal historians weighed in, noting that while family conflicts are nothing new, this kind of formal severance is virtually unheard of in modern times. Every angle was dissected, every word analyzed, and speculation mounted about the long-term effects on public perception, charitable work, and international relations. Public opinion, too, was split. In the United Kingdom, polls indicated a mixture of shock, curiosity, and support for the monarchy's decisive action. Many praised William for prioritizing the institution over personal relationships, emphasizing duty, tradition, and continuity. Others expressed sympathy for Harry and Meghan, questioning whether such a drastic measure might be seen as harsh or unforgiving. International audiences followed closely, especially in countries where the monarchy retains cultural influence or ceremonial ties. The story dominated news cycles across continents, reflecting the unparalleled global fascination with the royal family and their internal dynamics. At the center of all this, of course, are the individuals whose lives have been most directly affected. Prince Harry, the younger son whose journey from carefree prince to outspoken advocate has been widely publicized, now faces a new chapter defined by separation from his heritage, titles, and familial roles. Meghan Markle, who entered the royal family with hopes of modernizing and contributing to its evolution, is confronted with the permanence of this exclusion. And for Archie and Lilibet, the consequences extend beyond ceremony and titles. They involve identity, belonging, and the framing of a childhood that, until now, was intrinsically linked to royal privilege. The psychological, emotional, and practical ramifications of this move will unfold over years, if not decades, shaping their experiences and their place in history. Yet the announcement is not only about loss, it is also about clarity. For decades, the monarchy has walked a delicate line between tradition and modernity, personal autonomy and public duty. Every public engagement, charitable endeavor, and media statement is scrutinized, and every breach or misstep carries the potential for controversy. By taking this decisive action, Prince William has drawn a clear boundary. The monarchy, as an institution, must be resilient, consistent, and capable of maintaining authority regardless of individual choices. The message is unequivocal. Personal ambitions, media ventures, and public critiques cannot come at the expense of the institution's integrity. This moment is a stark reminder that even those born into royalty are bound by the responsibilities, expectations, and structures that define their family and their role in society. Experts suggest that this formal banishment could also serve as a precedent for how the royal family manages internal conflicts moving forward. Legal scholars and constitutional historians note that while the monarchy is largely symbolic in many modern contexts, the line of succession and associated privileges carry legal and cultural significance. Stripping individuals of these positions is not merely symbolic. It has real-world implications for inheritance, security, and even diplomatic interactions. The decision may be studied and debated for decades, cited in historical accounts as a turning point in how the British monarchy navigates public scrutiny, personal freedom, and institutional preservation. In the midst of all this, the world is left with one enduring question. What does the future hold for the monarchy, for Harry and Meghan, and for the legacy of this historic decision? Will the Sussexes forge a new path outside the traditional confines of royalty, or will they continue to clash with the institution they once called home? Will the monarchy emerge stronger, reaffirmed in its authority and purpose, or will the fissures exposed by this decision create lasting tension within the royal family and public perception? And perhaps most poignantly, what lessons can be drawn from this unprecedented move about the balance between personal desire, familial loyalty, and the weight of history? As we begin to unpack the layers of tonight's announcement, it becomes clear that this is far more than a story of family conflict or celebrity intrigue. This is a story about power, tradition, duty, and the human complexities that underlie one of the most watched and scrutinized families in the world. It is a story that will echo through history, analyzed, debated, and remembered as a defining moment for the British monarchy in the 21st century. And while the headlines are shocking, the true impact of Prince William's announcement on the individuals, the institution, and the public consciousness is only beginning to unfold. The news broke like a thunderclap across London and reverberated around the world. Prince William had made a historic and unprecedented announcement, declaring that Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and their children, Archie and Lilibet, would be permanently removed from the line of succession and stripped of all royal privileges. The moment was a culmination of years of tension, speculation, and private conflict, and the weight of the declaration was felt instantly within the hallowed halls of Buckingham Palace. Reporters, palace aides, and security personnel alike were caught in a whirlwind of disbelief and anticipation, knowing that what had just been announced would alter the monarchy forever. Inside the palace, the scene was electric. Courtiers and staff had been summoned to a secure briefing room, a space typically reserved for high-level discussions of national importance. Cameras were strictly prohibited, and the mood was tense, almost surreal. Sources describe aides pacing the corridors, whispering urgent questions to one another, while senior officials meticulously reviewed the official statement line by line. Every word, every nuance, and every potential misinterpretation mattered. The monarchy is an institution built on centuries of protocol, and any deviation from established norms could trigger diplomatic, legal, and public repercussions. In this instance, even the smallest detail, such as the phrasing of permanently removed from succession, was deliberately chosen to convey finality, leaving no room for ambiguity or misinterpretation. As the announcement was delivered, the palace press office immediately distributed an official statement to media outlets worldwide. The text was concise but loaded with meaning. Her Royal Highness and His Royal Highness, along with their children, will no longer hold positions in the line of succession. They will not carry out royal duties, nor will they receive financial support associated with their previous roles. This decision, while difficult, is necessary to preserve the continuity, integrity, and future of the monarchy. The words were factual, restrained, yet carried an undeniable weight. Within minutes, every major news organization was reporting the story, and the global public was flooded with breaking news alerts, social media notifications, and live broadcasts. Reaction inside the palace was a complex mix of relief, anxiety, and solemnity. On one hand, senior officials and advisors who had long struggled to mediate the relationship between the Sussexes and the institution felt a sense of resolution. The ongoing public disputes, media confrontations, and highly visible tensions had strained the monarchy in ways that could no longer be contained behind closed doors. By issuing this definitive statement, Prince William effectively drew a line in the sand, asserting that while familial bonds remain, the responsibilities, titles, and privileges associated with royalty must be upheld above all else. On the other hand, there was palpable concern about the potential fallout. Public backlash, legal challenges, and international scrutiny were all imminent. Outside the palace, the public reaction was immediate and dramatic. Crowds gathered in front of Buckingham Palace, eager for any sign of official comment or appearance by the royal family. Social media exploded, with hashtags related to the announcement trending worldwide within minutes. Analysts and commentators dissected every detail of the statement, debating whether the decision was driven by personal grievances, institutional necessity, or a combination of both. Historical experts emphasized the unprecedented nature of this move. While family disagreements and conflicts have always existed within royal lineages, the formal and permanent removal of individuals from the line of succession is virtually unheard of in modern history. Even seasoned commentators describe the announcement as a seismic shift in the monarchy, underscoring the gravity of what had transpired. Meanwhile, within the inner circles of those directly affected, tension and confusion ran high. Palace insiders report that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle received the news through private communication shortly before the public announcement. The couple, who had relocated to North America in recent years and maintained a high-profile media presence, were reportedly stunned and devastated by the finality of the decision. Close aides described moments of private confrontation between the Sussexes and their legal and PR teams as they attempted to fully comprehend the scope of the ruling. Questions abounded. What would this mean for their children? How would it affect their public engagements and media contracts? Could there be any chance of negotiation or appeal, or was this truly the end of their royal association? The uncertainty, coupled with the global attention, created a pressure cooker of emotion and speculation. The announcement also had immediate implications for the public perception of the monarchy. Experts on royal public relations noted that the clarity and decisiveness of William's statement was intended to stabilize the institution. By removing ambiguity, the monarchy sent a message that, while personal conflicts exist, the responsibilities and traditions inherent in the royal family are non-negotiable. Yet at the same time, critics argue that the move could fuel perceptions of rigidity or even cruelty. International observers, accustomed to the global fascination with the Sussexes, were quick to weigh in, offering opinions on whether the decision represented a necessary step to protect the monarchy or a harsh, unforgiving act toward family members. One particularly striking aspect of the announcement was its emphasis on permanence. The language deliberately underscored that this was not a temporary suspension or a soft boundary. Phrases like permanently removed and will not carry out royal duties signaled an irreversible decision. The symbolism of this finality was significant. It marked an end to the public and ceremonial roles that Harry and Meghan had once held, closing the door on potential future participation in traditional events, state ceremonies, or charitable activities under the royal banner. Titles, privileges, and associated financial support were all effectively revoked, leaving the couple and their children to navigate a future defined entirely outside the formal structures of monarchy. The global media narrative quickly evolved, emphasizing not just the announcement itself, but the human dimension behind it. Commentators highlighted the potential emotional toll on the family, particularly the young children who are now officially excluded from the royal lineage. Historical analysts drew parallels to previous royal disputes and controversies, but emphasized that none were quite like this in modern times. The decision represents a rare instance where personal family conflict, institutional duty, and public accountability intersect in such a dramatic and irreversible way. Analysts speculated about the long-term effects on public opinion, suggesting that this moment could reshape how the monarchy is perceived for years to come. The ripple effects of Prince William's announcement extended immediately into the royal family itself. Queen Camilla, present during the final briefing with William, reportedly displayed a mixture of composure and concern. Long accustomed to the delicate balancing act required to maintain family unity, she is said to have understood the necessity of the decision, while simultaneously acknowledging the personal pain it would cause. Sources indicate that Princess Anne, known for her forthright nature and unwavering dedication to royal duty, quietly endorsed the move, seeing it as a necessary assertion of responsibility and authority. Prince Charles, although not the one issuing the statement, was briefed extensively and expressed both support and sorrow, recognizing the inevitability of such a decisive action given the public tensions and recurring media conflicts involving the Sussexes. Other members of the royal household reportedly reacted with astonishment and some apprehension. Staff members who had served the family for decades were tasked with not only processing the logistical changes, but also managing the emotional fallout among those who had grown close to the Sussex family. The announcement was a watershed moment that required immediate adaptation. Ceremonial roles had to be reassigned, charitable engagements recalibrated, and protocol manuals updated to reflect the new status quo. Security teams, too, faced a rapidly evolving situation as adjustments to protection details for the Sussexes and their children became a critical priority, now that their official royal support had been rescinded. The layers of operational complexity underscored how deeply intertwined the Sussexes had been within the royal system, and how far-reaching the effects of their exclusion would be. Across the United Kingdom, public reaction was both intense and deeply divided. Street interviews in central London captured a wide spectrum of opinion. Some expressed unwavering support for William's decision, viewing it as a reaffirmation of the monarchy's authority and a necessary step to protect its credibility. "It's about duty," one middle-aged onlooker commented. "Royalty comes with responsibilities, and if you can't fulfill them without causing constant media chaos, then maybe this is the right move." Others, however, questioned the fairness and humanity of the decision, emphasizing the personal cost to Harry, Meghan, and particularly their young children. Social media was flooded with emotionally charged commentary, hashtags, and viral videos dissecting every aspect of the announcement, as well as memes and reactions that highlighted both outrage and humor. The conversation transcended borders, with international audiences weighing in on the implications for the monarchy, media ethics, and the personal dynamics of the family. News organizations around the world scrambled to provide analysis, interviews, and historical context. Royal commentators and journalists, some of whom have spent decades covering palace affairs, described the move as unprecedented in modern times. Analysts emphasized that while internal family conflicts are not unusual, formal removal from the line of succession, complete with the revocation of titles, privileges, and ceremonial roles, is virtually unheard of. Many drew comparisons to historical instances where disputes threatened succession, but none matched the clarity and finality of William's declaration. Commentators also examined the political and cultural ramifications, suggesting that the monarchy's image, both domestically and internationally, could be significantly reshaped by this decision. For nations with historical ties to the British monarchy, and for audiences who follow royal developments closely, the announcement was seen as a moment of profound symbolic and practical importance. Reactions from key political figures added another layer of intensity. British lawmakers, diplomats, and public officials were quick to comment on the announcement, acknowledging its significance while emphasizing that the monarchy operates independently of government policy. Some praised William's decisiveness, framing it as a necessary action to maintain stability and public trust. Others expressed concern about the personal and social ramifications, noting that public sentiment regarding the royal family is a delicate and complex matter. Across the political spectrum, there was recognition that this decision represents a historic moment that could define the monarchy's approach to internal conflicts for years to come. Meanwhile, within the media landscape, the story dominated coverage across platforms. Television channels ran continuous live segments from outside Buckingham Palace, with anchors discussing the implications in real time. Newspapers led with bold headlines, some focusing on the institutional impact, others highlighting the personal drama. Digital outlets and social media platforms amplified the story at lightning speed, with viral clips, opinion pieces, and fact checks dissecting the announcement minute by minute. Analysts noted that the media frenzy was unprecedented, not only in terms of volume, but also in the level of detail being analyzed and speculated upon. Every statement from the palace, every historical reference, and every potential consequence was meticulously examined and debated across international newsrooms. In the midst of this public and institutional storm, there were also significant legal and logistical considerations. Removing Harry and Meghan from succession is not purely symbolic. It carries concrete implications for inheritance, titles, and access to royal resources. Legal experts explained that these changes would affect not only ceremonial duties, but also financial arrangements, charitable foundations, and protections historically afforded to senior members of the royal family. Adjustments to security details, residence allocations, and travel protocols had to be carefully coordinated to ensure both compliance with the new status and ongoing safety for the family members involved. Sources indicate that internal teams worked tirelessly behind the scenes to manage the transition smoothly, balancing public communication with operational realities in a rapidly evolving situation. For the Sussexes themselves, the announcement represented both a personal and professional watershed. Prince Harry, whose life has been heavily scrutinized in the media for years, now faced a reality in which his formal ties to the monarchy were permanently severed. This not only affected his public role, but also redefined his personal identity in relation to his family and to the institution that had shaped much of his early life. Meghan Markle, likewise, faced the challenge of adjusting to a permanent detachment from royal responsibilities and privileges, redefining her public and private identity in light of the exclusion. For Archie and Lilibet, the youngest members of the family, the implications were profound. Their titles, rights, and ceremonial roles were effectively removed, forcing the family to navigate the delicate task of explaining the change to children whose lives had been steeped in royal tradition from birth. The announcement also prompted immediate speculation about the future paths of the Sussexes. With royal duties revoked and public roles reshaped, attention turned to potential media ventures, business opportunities, and philanthropic work that Harry and Meghan might pursue independently. Analysts debated whether the couple would embrace a fully autonomous life in the public eye, leveraging their notoriety and influence, or whether the exclusion might limit opportunities that were previously enhanced by royal association. Experts emphasized that this moment represents a turning point, not only for the individuals involved, but for the broader institution, as it navigates the evolving dynamics between public scrutiny, personal ambition, and family loyalty. To fully understand the gravity of Prince William's announcement, it is essential to explore the historical context surrounding royal succession and family disputes. The British monarchy, with its centuries-long lineage, has navigated countless crises, but few have been as personal and public as the current rift involving Harry and Meghan. The removal of a family member from the line of succession, particularly when it extends to children born into the royal fold, is virtually without precedent in modern times. Yet history does provide examples, often tragic, often dramatic, that illuminate the stakes of William's decision and the broader cultural and institutional pressures at play. One of the most notable historical comparisons is the exile of King Edward VIII, who famously abdicated the throne in 1936 to marry Wallis Simpson, an American divorcee. Edward's choice sparked a constitutional crisis and forced him into permanent removal from the monarchy. While Edward's abdication was voluntary, it demonstrates the monarchy's historical rigidity regarding personal choices that conflict with public expectations or institutional responsibilities. The parallels to Harry and Meghan's situation are striking. Both instances involve a family member whose personal life and public persona created tension with the expectations of royal duty. However, unlike Edward's case, William's announcement is framed not as a voluntary abdication but as a decisive, permanent removal, highlighting the modern monarchy's willingness to assert authority over succession in unprecedented ways. Another historical lens can be found in the stories of George IV and his strained family relationships. George IV, known for his extravagant lifestyle and contentious relationship with his family, often clashed with royal protocol, advisors, and public expectations. Though he remained in the line of succession, his behavior led to intense public scrutiny and internal family conflict. Comparatively, the Sussexes' situation reflects similar patterns. Public personas, media controversies, and perceived breaches of protocol culminating in an extraordinary familial and institutional response. The lessons of George IV's reign suggest that unchecked personal ambition or deviation from expected conduct can have long-lasting consequences, not only for the individuals involved, but for the monarchy's image and legitimacy. Historical disputes over succession also provide critical context. During the 17th century, England faced multiple succession crises that often involved personal scandal and political maneuvering. The case of James II, whose Catholic faith and controversial decisions triggered the Glorious Revolution of 1688, illustrates the intricate interplay between personal choices and institutional stability. While James II was not removed in a familial sense alone, his faith and policies triggered political intervention. The principle remains that the monarchy historically acts decisively to preserve stability, even when it means sidelining or punishing family members. William's decision to remove Harry, Meghan, and their children resonates with this principle, safeguarding the monarchy's image and continuity above personal considerations. Yet the Sussexes' removal is unique in that it touches the line of succession directly while simultaneously affecting a younger generation. Historically, disputes often ended with the marginalization of an individual rather than their offspring. In this case, Archie and Lilibet's exclusion from royal succession and privileges represents a rare instance where children bear institutional consequences as part of a broader familial and public dispute. The implications are profound, signaling a shift in how the monarchy addresses challenges from within. Public reputation, media engagement, and personal choices now intersect with formal succession in ways that previous generations of royals may not have anticipated. The modern media landscape amplifies this historical tension. While Edward VIII and other historical figures contended with newspapers, letters, and limited forms of communication, Harry and Meghan have operated in an era of 24-hour global news cycles, social media, and instant public commentary. This unprecedented scrutiny increases the stakes, as every action, statement, and photograph is analyzed for its implications on duty, protocol, and public perception. Historically, a royal scandal might have remained contained within courtly circles or national newspapers. Today, it reaches a worldwide audience within seconds. The Sussexes' media presence, both in traditional outlets and on platforms they themselves manage, represents a radical evolution in how royal personal conduct intersects with institutional responsibility. The concept of royal privilege has also evolved over time, and William's announcement underscores its contemporary interpretation. Privilege historically encompassed not only ceremonial authority and wealth, but also access to influence, protection, and public deference. By removing Harry and Meghan from these structures, William is redefining the boundaries of privilege in the modern monarchy. Legal experts emphasize that revocation of titles, succession rights, and ceremonial duties creates tangible consequences, not merely symbolic ones. From security coverage and official residences to charitable engagement and formal recognition, every aspect of the Sussexes' royal identity is being recalibrated. Historically, such comprehensive removal was almost unheard of, marking this moment as a defining precedent for future generations. The interplay between personal choice and institutional expectation has long shaped the monarchy, but the Sussexes' situation also raises questions about generational dynamics within the royal family. William's approach reflects a commitment to upholding perceived duty and public responsibility, even at the cost of personal relationships. Comparatively, previous generations often navigated similar tensions through compromise, discretion, or controlled exile, but rarely with the level of transparency and finality now exhibited. This shift reflects not only William's leadership style, but also broader societal expectations. In an era of accountability, public transparency, and relentless scrutiny, the monarchy is under unprecedented pressure to act decisively and visibly in response to perceived breaches of conduct. In analyzing precedents, it is also critical to examine the cultural lens through which royal actions are interpreted. The British monarchy exists not only as an institution but as a symbol, a representation of national continuity, tradition, and authority. Public reaction to previous crises has always been influenced by cultural norms, national identity, and societal values. In modern times, with global media and social discourse amplifying every development, these cultural factors are magnified. William's decision, therefore, must be understood not merely as an internal family matter, but as a strategic assertion of institutional authority designed to preserve the monarchy's relevance, credibility, and public trust in a complex, globalized context. Experts on monarchy and protocol note that while the Sussexes' removal is dramatic, it also reflects a calculated effort to delineate boundaries clearly. Historically, ambiguous or prolonged disputes often eroded public confidence and internal cohesion. By acting decisively, William is sending a clear message. The monarchy maintains authority over succession and public roles, regardless of personal sentiment or media spectacle. This approach contrasts with earlier royal strategies, which sometimes involved negotiation, temporary exile, or tacit acceptance of problematic behavior. The Sussexes' permanent exclusion represents an unequivocal statement that institutional duty outweighs individual circumstance when the two are in conflict. In conclusion, the historical context and royal precedents underscore the extraordinary nature of this moment. The removal of Harry, Meghan, and their children from succession and royal privileges is unprecedented in its scope, permanence, and generational impact. Comparisons to Edward VIII, George IV, James II, and other historical figures provide insight into how personal choices, public perception, and institutional stability have always been intertwined in the monarchy. Yet the Sussexes' situation is unique, amplified by modern media, legal considerations, and societal expectations, setting a new benchmark for how the monarchy navigates internal conflict and public scrutiny. Understanding this backdrop is essential for appreciating the weight of William's decision and its potential to redefine royal family dynamics for decades to come. The moment Prince William's announcement went public, the media landscape erupted into a frenzy of headlines, breaking news alerts, and viral commentary. Across newspapers, television broadcasts, and online news platforms, the story dominated every outlet, illustrating just how closely the public and media follow the British royal family. The gravity of removing Harry, Meghan, and their children from succession and royal privileges sent shockwaves not just through the United Kingdom, but across the globe. Major networks ran special reports, social media platforms flooded with hashtags, and commentators offered real-time analyses, reflecting a world captivated by the unprecedented drama unfolding within the monarchy. Television networks in London immediately interrupted regular programming to cover the announcement, offering live coverage of Buckingham Palace, Kensington Palace, and other royal residences. Anchors recited the key points: the revocation of titles, the exclusion from succession, and the stripping of royal privileges. Each channel featured panels of royal experts, historians, and journalists, dissecting the implications. Analysts debated whether the move was legally binding, the extent of its effects on future generations, and the potential for further family tensions. The discussion was not just about procedure, it was about the human element, the emotions, relationships, and reputations at stake. Viewers witnessed experts reference historical precedents, speculate on future public appearances, and analyze what this would mean for the monarchy's public image, all in real time. Print and online newspapers followed closely, publishing detailed reports alongside speculative opinion pieces. Headlines varied from stark and dramatic, "Royal family in shock," "Sussexes banished," and "Monarchy draws a line in the sand," to more analytical interpretations, examining the legal, cultural, and familial implications. International media picked up the story instantly. Outlets in the United States, Canada, Australia, and Europe framed the news within broader discussions of celebrity culture, media scrutiny, and institutional authority. For many, this wasn't just royal gossip. It was a case study in how tradition, family, and public expectation intersect with modern life. Articles often included sidebars summarizing Harry and Meghan's previous controversies, creating a narrative that framed their exclusion as the culmination of years of publicized disputes, media appearances, and unconventional choices within a highly traditional institution. Social media platforms became a global stage for public reaction. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook overflowed with posts, memes, and debates. Users shared screenshots from royal documentaries, viral clips from previous interviews, and commentary from pundits and influencers. Hashtags such as #SussexBanished, #RoyalFamilyShock, and #WilliamDecides began trending within hours. Memes ranged from humorous exaggerations of the royal drama to sharp criticism of the monarchy, reflecting a spectrum of public sentiment. Some users expressed support for William's decisiveness, praising his commitment to tradition and public responsibility. Others sided with Harry and Meghan, condemning what they perceived as harsh treatment and questioning the morality of penalizing children for parental choices. The rapid spread of these reactions demonstrates not only the public's engagement with royal affairs, but also the role social media plays in shaping modern narratives about power, privilege, and family conflict. The news coverage also highlighted cultural differences in perception. British media often framed the story with a mix of reverence for tradition and fascination with scandal, reflecting the country's deep connection to the monarchy. Tabloids offered sensationalized coverage, sometimes emphasizing personal grievances or portraying the Sussexes as rebellious outsiders. Meanwhile, international outlets, particularly in the United States, framed the narrative through the lens of celebrity and media influence, focusing on Harry and Meghan's previous interviews, Netflix projects, and public statements. This dichotomy created a layered narrative. On one hand, a traditional institution asserting authority. On the other, a global media ecosystem dissecting every move and comment for entertainment, critique, or insight into broader societal issues. News analysis quickly turned to speculation about the royal family's internal dynamics. Commentators discussed how other members of the family might respond, from King Charles's potential stance to Princess and Prince Andrew's historical roles in family decisions. Speculation abounded about private conversations behind palace walls, including how William might have consulted with advisors or family members before issuing such a definitive declaration. The narrative painted a picture of a tightly controlled institution facing unprecedented scrutiny while balancing internal loyalty, public expectation, and global perception. Reporters highlighted the possible implications for royal events, charitable work, and ceremonial duties, raising questions about whether the Sussexes would attend future state occasions or maintain any official connections with the monarchy. Public outcry was not limited to digital forums. Letters to newspapers, live call-ins on radio shows, and discussion panels on news broadcasts demonstrated that this was a story engaging audiences of all ages and backgrounds. Opinion polls indicated a divided public, with a significant portion supporting William's actions as necessary for maintaining tradition and authority, while another faction expressed concern over the consequences for Harry, Meghan, and particularly their children. Sociologists and cultural commentators weighed in, discussing how public fascination with royal family drama has intensified in an era of constant media exposure and social media amplification. They noted that the Sussexes' prominence and prior media activity meant that the stakes were far higher than in past disputes, where information was more contained and public reactions more localized. International reactions were similarly intense. In the United States, major networks devoted segments to analyzing the monarchy through a celebrity-focused lens, drawing comparisons between the Sussexes' media activities and American entertainment culture. European outlets emphasized the institutional implications, questioning whether the monarchy could sustain public trust and legitimacy in an era of scrutiny and personal scandal. Social media across multiple languages echoed the same themes: disbelief, fascination, humor, and critique. Global audiences, many of whom engage with the royal family vicariously, experienced the announcement as a cultural event, reflecting the monarchy's enduring ability to captivate worldwide attention and provoke discussion about authority, tradition, and family loyalty. The coverage also explored potential ramifications for Harry and Meghan's public and professional lives. Analysts examined contracts with media companies, philanthropic initiatives, and public speaking opportunities, speculating on how the loss of royal affiliation might affect their brand, security arrangements, and public perception. Observers noted that while removal from the line of succession and royal privileges might seem punitive, it could paradoxically free the Sussexes to operate outside institutional constraints, potentially creating new opportunities for influence, media presence, or activism. This duality, punitive yet liberating, added layers of complexity to the narrative, prompting media outlets to speculate about future developments, from legal battles to global public appearances. Celebrity commentators and influencers further amplified public engagement. Notable figures with connections to the Sussexes, former collaborators, or individuals known for commenting on royalty offered their interpretations across podcasts, live streams, and television interviews. Their voices contributed to the sense that this announcement was not merely a family matter, but a global cultural moment. Discussions ranged from sympathetic reflections on Harry and Meghan's personal struggles to critiques of their perceived disregard for tradition, highlighting the polarity of public opinion and the intensity of discourse surrounding royal family matters. Importantly, the media also examined the human side of the story. Journalists focused on the emotional toll of the announcement, the strain on family relationships, and the impact on children. Expert commentators on child psychology, media influence, and family dynamics provided insight into how such public exclusion could affect young lives, drawing attention to Archie and Lilibet's perspective and experiences. These segments emphasize the ethical dimensions of the decision, encouraging viewers to consider not only institutional imperatives, but also the human consequences of public actions and familial conflict. In conclusion, the media explosion and public outcry surrounding Prince William's announcement underscores the extraordinary visibility and influence of the modern monarchy. Coverage spanned every conceivable platform, blending factual reporting, historical context, expert analysis, and public commentary. Audiences engaged through television, print, online, and social media, reflecting both fascination and polarized opinions. The intersection of tradition, personal choice, public perception, and global media scrutiny created a narrative of unprecedented complexity, demonstrating how the monarchy's internal decisions can reverberate worldwide. The intense attention, debate, and emotional engagement highlight not only the drama inherent in the royal family's affairs, but also the broader societal implications of authority, privilege, and family dynamics in an era dominated by instant, global communication. As soon as Prince William's announcement became public, the world turned its gaze toward Harry and Meghan. For months, speculation had circulated about potential tensions between the Duke and Duchess of Sussex and the senior royals, but few could have predicted the dramatic magnitude of this announcement. The Sussexes' immediate response was both strategic and emotionally charged, reflecting a calculated approach to managing their public image while navigating the deep personal impact of their banishment from the monarchy. Within hours, official statements, social media posts, and carefully orchestrated interviews began to emerge, each serving to contextualize their perspective and assert a narrative that challenged, questioned, and at times subtly defied the institution that had excluded them. The first indication of Harry and Meghan's reaction appeared on social media. Their official accounts, managed by a small communications team, shared a statement that conveyed both disappointment and resolve. The language was deliberate, measured yet firm, expressing regret over the decision but also emphasizing the couple's commitment to family, humanitarian work, and public service. Phrases such as, "We are saddened by the decision but remain devoted to our mission of supporting communities worldwide," appeared alongside carefully chosen images of Harry and Meghan with their children, reinforcing a sense of stability and resilience in the face of upheaval. Analysts immediately dissected the statement, noting the choice of words, the timing, and the visual cues, interpreting them as part of a broader communication strategy aimed at maintaining public support and shaping the narrative in their favor. Television networks quickly broadcast the statement, often accompanied by commentary from royal experts, media consultants, and cultural analysts. Experts highlighted the careful balance in the language. Harry and Meghan did not publicly criticize William or the monarchy directly, but subtle implications suggested disappointment and frustration. Analysts noted that this approach aimed to preserve dignity while signaling disapproval, a tactic often employed in high-stakes public relations scenarios where direct confrontation might escalate conflict or further damage reputations. Viewers around the world tuned in, some expressing sympathy for the couple, others questioning whether the response was calculated for media consumption rather than personal expression. The immediate public reaction was as polarized as the coverage of the announcement itself, with opinion pieces debating whether Harry and Meghan were victims, rebels, or something in between. Shortly after the social media statement, interviews began to surface, offering a more personal perspective. Close associates of the Sussexes described private phone calls and video meetings in which Harry and Meghan expressed shock, sadness, and a sense of betrayal. Sources suggested that Harry, known for his loyalty to family, struggled to reconcile his love for his brother with the harshness of the banishment decision. Meghan, by contrast, reportedly channeled her emotions into composure and strategic thinking, focusing on protecting her children and managing public perception. The interplay between private emotion and public image became a focal point for commentators, with analysts noting that the couple's ability to convey calm and control in media appearances served as a counterpoint to the narrative of exclusion and marginalization. Legal advisors were reportedly engaged immediately following the announcement. Legal teams familiar with royal protocols, inheritance law, and media law were consulted to assess the potential ramifications of the decision. While the removal from the line of succession and revocation of privileges was framed as a decisive family action, sources indicated that Harry and Meghan were exploring whether any legal recourse or challenge was possible. The focus was not only on the immediate consequences, but also on long-term implications for security arrangements, financial autonomy, and public obligations. Legal experts commented publicly on the complexity of the situation, noting that while formal challenge to the line of succession is historically rare and legally complex, discussions surrounding privacy, contractual obligations, and the protection of minors could influence subsequent negotiations or public disclosures. Social media activity from Harry and Meghan's supporters intensified in the wake of the announcement. Fans, advocacy groups, and public figures posted messages expressing solidarity, often using the hashtag #SupportTheSussexes. Emotional appeals emphasize the challenges of being thrust into global scrutiny while navigating personal and familial tensions. Celebrities with past connections to the couple publicly offered statements of encouragement, further amplifying their message and reinforcing the narrative of a couple navigating institutional constraints while remaining committed to their family and causes. The dynamic interaction between social media supporters, the couple's communications team, and global media created a multi-layered narrative that dominated public conversation for days. The Sussexes' children, Archie and Lilibet, were carefully shielded from immediate exposure. Official statements emphasize their desire to maintain normalcy and stability for the children, highlighting private family moments rather than public appearances. Media outlets respected, to some extent, the need for privacy, but speculation about the children's reaction and future was rampant. Analysts discussed the potential psychological impact of being removed from royal succession at such a young age, while public opinion was divided between sympathy for the children and critique of the parents' past media engagement. The couple's handling of their children's exposure became a focal point in broader discussions about responsible public behavior, celebrity parenting, and media ethics. Amid the public statements and social media activity, Harry and Meghan reportedly engaged in extensive private communication with allies within and outside the UK. Counselors, former advisors, and trusted confidants were consulted to manage both emotional fallout and strategic planning. Reports suggested that this network of advisors helped craft messages, prepare for potential interviews, and anticipate public reactions. Sources indicated that every word, image, and post was scrutinized for impact, reflecting the couple's awareness of the delicate balance between authenticity and media management. Analysts emphasize that this level of preparation is consistent with high-profile figures navigating crisis situations, demonstrating both sophistication and the pressures inherent in public life. The couple's response also included subtle but deliberate engagement with their philanthropic and professional projects. Announcements regarding charitable initiatives, partnerships, and upcoming media projects were timed to coincide with public reactions to the banishment. Observers interpreted this as a dual strategy, affirming their ongoing commitment to causes important to them, while maintaining a presence in public discourse that reinforced their autonomy and influence despite formal exclusion from royal duties. By aligning media activity with philanthropic endeavors, the Sussexes projected an image of resilience, responsibility, and continued relevance. Public discourse surrounding Harry and Meghan's immediate response revealed a broader societal conversation about the nature of power, loyalty, and personal agency within hierarchical institutions. Commentators debated whether the couple's approach reflected strength, vulnerability, or calculated image management. Articles analyzed historical precedents of royal conflicts, drawing comparisons to past instances where family members faced exclusion or controversy, while sociologists explored the cultural implications of global attention on personal and familial choices. The Sussexes' handling of the situation, particularly in balancing emotional transparency with strategic communication, became a case study in modern public relations, celebrity culture, and the interplay between personal agency and institutional authority. In conclusion, Harry and Meghan's immediate response to their banishment was multifaceted, carefully orchestrated, and emotionally resonant. From social media statements to private legal consultations, the couple navigated a complex landscape of public scrutiny, familial tension, and strategic positioning. Their response reflected both personal resilience and media savvy, acknowledging disappointment while asserting autonomy, protecting their children, and maintaining global influence. The intense global coverage, public discourse, and expert analysis surrounding their reaction underscores the extraordinary intersection of family, tradition, and modern media in shaping the contemporary narrative of the British monarchy. Harry and Meghan's response was not merely reactive. It was an assertion of identity, agency, and vision in the midst of historic upheaval. Inside Buckingham Palace, the atmosphere was described by sources as tense, measured, and unusually somber. The announcement made by Prince William did not come as an isolated public statement. It followed weeks of intense internal deliberation, consultations with senior advisors, and legal review. The palace had long been aware of the growing rift between the Duke and Duchess of Sussex and the core members of the royal family, but the decision to permanently remove Harry, Meghan, and their children from the line of succession represented a dramatic escalation that required meticulous planning and extraordinary discretion. According to insiders, every aspect of the announcement, from the timing and wording to the channel of delivery, was debated at length, reflecting the high stakes involved in balancing familial relationships, constitutional protocol, and public perception. The internal discussions began in earnest months before the public announcement. Privately, senior members of the royal household, including King Charles, Prince William and senior advisors reviewed historical precedents, consulted constitutional lawyers, and evaluated the potential political and public fallout of removing members of the royal family from succession. Sources reveal that advisors compiled extensive briefings, analyzing how past monarchs handled disputes within the family and the legal framework surrounding the line of succession. While historical instances of royal estrangement exist, permanent exclusion from succession is almost unprecedented, especially in modern times. The decision, therefore, was not taken lightly, and multiple scenarios were modeled to anticipate media coverage, public opinion, and potential backlash from domestic and international observers. King Charles, according to insiders, played a central role in framing the approach. His primary concern was preserving the integrity and continuity of the monarchy, ensuring that succession remained orderly and that the institution's stability was not compromised. He reportedly emphasized that any public announcement must convey authority, clarity, and inevitability, while maintaining the dignity of all parties involved. Conversations within the palace highlighted the delicate balance between familial loyalty and institutional responsibility, acknowledging that a misstep could escalate tensions and provoke widespread media scrutiny. Charles is said to have personally reviewed every draft of the announcement, offering guidance on tone, phrasing, and potential legal implications, reflecting his hands-on approach in navigating the complex dynamics at play. Prince William's role was equally significant. As the heir apparent, he bore the responsibility of not only enforcing the decision, but also articulating its rationale in a manner that would resonate with both the public and members of the royal household. Sources suggest that William grappled with the emotional weight of publicly excluding his brother and sister-in-law, understanding the potential long-term impact on family relationships. In private discussions, he reportedly expressed concern about how the announcement would be received by the British public, international observers, and even the children, Archie and Lilibet. Advisors indicated that William's approach combined firmness with a measured acknowledgement of the personal consequences, aiming to assert authority while avoiding overtly adversarial language. The palace communications team played a crucial role in crafting the narrative surrounding the banishment. Media strategists, public relations experts, and royal correspondents collaborated to develop statements, coordinate press releases, and anticipate questions from journalists. The team meticulously analyzed previous media coverage of Harry and Meghan, identifying patterns, potential flashpoints, and opportunities to frame the announcement in a controlled and authoritative manner. Drafts of statements were circulated among senior officials, reviewed, and revised multiple times to ensure that the message conveyed the seriousness of the decision while minimizing the risk of misinterpretation or sensationalism. In addition, internal protocols were established to monitor media reaction in real time and respond promptly to misinformation or speculative reporting. Legal advisors were integral to the internal discussions. The constitutional basis for altering succession rights is complex, governed by legislation such as the Act of Settlement of 1701 and subsequent reforms. The legal team reviewed the implications of removing Harry, Meghan, and their descendants from the line of succession, including questions related to inheritance, royal prerogatives, and ceremonial responsibilities. Sources indicate that while the monarchy possesses certain discretionary powers, any formal change in succession required careful adherence to established legal procedures and consultation with governmental authorities. This involved private meetings with senior legal counsel, constitutional experts, and advisors within the Privy Council, ensuring that every step taken would withstand scrutiny from legal, political, and historical perspectives. Within the palace, reactions were varied. Senior members expressed a combination of relief, apprehension, and cautious optimism. Some advisors viewed the decision as necessary to reinforce the stability of the monarchy and prevent further public controversies, particularly in light of recent interviews, media appearances, and statements by Harry and Meghan that had caused significant reputational challenges. Others voiced concern about potential long-term damage to family unity, highlighting the personal consequences of permanently estranging a close family member. Conversations reportedly included discussion of contingency plans, such as mediation attempts, private family meetings, and the possibility of future reconciliation, while acknowledging that the decision to banish the Sussexes from succession had fundamentally altered the family dynamic. Historical context informed the discussions. Palace historians and senior aides reminded the decision-makers of prior instances where royal family members faced censure, exile, or removal from official duties. Comparisons were drawn to figures such as King Edward VIII, who abdicated in 1936, and other instances of internal conflict that had long-lasting consequences for both the individuals involved and the institution as a whole. The advisors emphasized that while precedent existed, the modern media landscape, global scrutiny, and the couple's international profile introduced unprecedented complexity. The combination of historical insight and contemporary awareness shaped the strategic approach, guiding both the announcement and the anticipated follow-up measures. Internal security considerations were also a key factor. With Harry and Meghan having established residences abroad, concerns about personal safety, public demonstrations, and potential security risks were paramount. Advisors coordinated with palace security, private security firms, and governmental agencies to ensure a comprehensive approach to protecting all parties while maintaining discretion. Plans included monitoring public venues, managing media access, and ensuring secure communication channels for the family, reflecting the seriousness with which the palace treated potential fallout from the announcement. The day of the announcement was meticulously orchestrated. According to sources, senior family members gathered for a private briefing, reviewing final statements, media coverage plans, and timing. The objective was to present a unified front, emphasizing that the decision was not taken lightly, but was necessary to preserve the monarchy's dignity and continuity. Advisors ensured that each member understood their role, including potential questions from journalists, anticipated social media reactions, and lines of response for both domestic and international coverage. This preparation underscored the strategic importance of controlling the narrative while balancing sensitivity to personal relationships. Once the announcement went public, the palace immediately implemented a rapid response communication strategy. Spokespersons were prepared to address inquiries, provide context, and redirect conversations toward the stability and future of the monarchy. Analysts noted that the timing of statements, coordinated media releases, and measured messaging demonstrated a high level of planning, reflecting the palace's awareness of the potential for global attention and scrutiny. The swift management of both internal and external communications was intended to prevent misinformation, reduce sensationalism, and reinforce the seriousness of the decision, while maintaining the monarchy's image as a stable and enduring institution. In sum, the internal discussions and palace reaction to the banishment of Harry, Meghan, and their children reveal a complex interplay of legal, emotional, historical, and strategic considerations. Every aspect, from King Charles's guidance to Prince William's execution, from legal counsel to communication strategy, was carefully evaluated to balance the demands of familial loyalty, institutional integrity, and public perception. The decision marked a historic moment for the British monarchy, one in which tradition, law, and personal relationships collided in a way that had never before been witnessed in modern times. Behind the polished public statements, the palace's internal deliberations reflected both the weight of history and the pressures of contemporary media scrutiny, highlighting the extraordinary complexity of maintaining a centuries-old institution while navigating personal and public dynamics on a global stage. The moment Prince William's announcement went public, social media erupted into a storm of reactions, trending hashtags, and heated debates. Within minutes, news outlets across the world picked up the story, each framing it according to their editorial perspectives. The headline alone, "Harry and Meghan officially banished from the monarchy," set a tone of shock, disbelief, and urgency, captivating audiences and triggering a wave of instant analysis. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook became battlegrounds for opinion, speculation, and speculation-tinged reporting as fans, critics, royal enthusiasts, and political commentators all weighed in. The sheer speed and volume of engagement were unprecedented, reflecting not only the global fascination with the British royal family, but also the contentious nature of this historic decision. In the United Kingdom, the public response was polarized. Royalists who emphasized the importance of tradition and institutional integrity largely supported the decision. They praised Prince William for his decisive action, describing the move as necessary to protect the monarchy from repeated controversies and media scrutiny. Social media posts in this camp highlighted phrases like duty over drama and keeping the crown safe, framing the banishment as a responsible measure by the heir to the throne. Many commentators pointed to previous incidents. The interviews, memoirs, and public statements by Harry and Meghan as justification, arguing that repeated breaches of protocol had eroded public trust and risked damaging the monarchy's credibility. Conversely, there was a strong and vocal opposition to the announcement. Critics described the move as unnecessarily harsh, framing it as a public humiliation rather than a carefully measured step. Social media posts circulated images of Harry and Meghan with their children, accompanied by messages emphasizing empathy, fairness, and family loyalty. Some commentators suggested that the decision could exacerbate divisions within the royal family and damage Britain's global reputation, portraying it as a spectacle of power rather than a thoughtful act of governance. The emotional tone in these responses ranged from anger and sadness to disbelief, with many questioning whether a permanent banishment was truly necessary or proportionate. International media provided a kaleidoscope of interpretations. In the United States, outlets highlighted the personal drama and familial conflict, often framing the story with references to Harry and Meghan's prior public appearances, interviews, and business ventures. Headlines emphasized sensational angles, such as the children being stripped from the line of succession and Meghan's alleged reaction to the announcement. American media coverage often focused on the interpersonal dynamics, examining potential tensions between the brothers, the impact on Harry and Meghan's public image, and the implications for their ongoing charitable and media endeavors. Some networks drew parallels between the announcement and high-profile familial disputes in American political and celebrity spheres, further fueling discussion and speculation. European media generally emphasized constitutional and institutional perspectives. Outlets in countries such as France, Germany, and Italy analyzed the legal and historical implications, noting that while the royal family retains considerable ceremonial authority, changes in succession rights are rare and historically significant. Analysts dissected the announcement with reference to past instances of royal abdication, exile, or removal from duties, noting the uniqueness of permanently excluding a family line in the modern era. Commentary often focused on the implications for the monarchy's international perception, considering how such a dramatic move might influence diplomatic relations, public opinion, and the monarchy's role as a symbol of national stability. Social media platforms, in particular, became hotbeds for immediate reactions. Twitter users debated the ethics of the decision, frequently comparing Prince William's actions with historical figures in the monarchy. Some drew parallels to King Edward VIII's abdication, suggesting that the drama surrounding Harry and Meghan had escalated to a comparable level of public intrigue. Instagram and TikTok saw viral clips of news coverage, fan commentary, and meme culture, transforming the announcement into both a serious news story and a source of entertainment. Analysts tracking sentiment noted that engagement patterns reflected deep divisions, with polarizing opinions driving massive interaction across platforms. Polls conducted on social media suggested nearly equal portions of support and opposition, highlighting the split in public sentiment and underscoring the emotional intensity of the announcement. Within fan communities, reactions were equally multifaceted. Royal enthusiasts, who have historically followed the Sussexes closely, expressed shock at the permanence of the banishment. Private forums, Facebook groups, and online chat rooms saw heated discussions about what this meant for Archie and Lilibet, the children's future in the United Kingdom, and the potential long-term consequences for Harry and Meghan's public endeavors. Some fans expressed sympathy for the family members directly affected, particularly the young children, while others debated whether public loyalty should be weighed against the responsibilities and duties inherent in royal life. The intensity of these conversations highlighted the deep emotional investment the public holds in the monarchy, transforming the announcement into a social and cultural phenomenon far beyond the palace walls. Experts and commentators were quick to weigh in, offering analysis and predictions. Constitutional lawyers highlighted the legal implications, noting that while the monarch and the heir possessed discretionary powers regarding ceremonial roles, formal changes to succession require careful procedural adherence. Analysts suggested that this move could set a precedent for future generations, redefining the boundaries of royal authority and the consequences of public dissent within the family. Psychologists and family experts discussed the emotional toll, emphasizing that such public estrangements can have long-lasting impacts on both the individuals directly involved and the broader family dynamics. Commentators across disciplines noted that the decision simultaneously reflected the monarchy's need for stability and the personal complexity of managing a highly visible, multi-generational family institution. The announcement also sparked global curiosity about the immediate whereabouts and reactions of Harry and Meghan. Media outlets attempted to confirm their locations, with sources suggesting they were in their California R. The announcement also sparked global curiosity about the immediate whereabouts and reactions of Harry and Meghan. Media outlets attempted to confirm their locations, with sources suggesting they were in their California residence at the time, surrounded by private security and media attention. Reports indicated that both were aware of the impending public announcement, though speculation about their personal reactions varied widely. Eyewitness accounts and leaked sources suggested that Meghan initially reacted with shock and frustration, while Harry was described as maintaining composure, reportedly concerned about the impact on their children and the broader family reputation. Analysts suggested that the couple's response would be critical in shaping subsequent media narratives, as any public statement or social media post could influence both domestic and international. The speed at which news spread was staggering. Within the first hour of the announcement, major news outlets across multiple time zones were broadcasting live coverage. Social media feeds were inundated with reactions, ranging from analytical commentary to emotional expressions of support or outrage. Hashtags related to the announcement trended worldwide, with millions of mentions recorded within the first 24 hours. Public engagement was not limited to the UK or the United States. Audiences in Australia, Canada, South Africa, and Asia followed the unfolding story with similar intensity, highlighting the global fascination with the British royal family and the enduring influence of media in shaping public perception. Analysts noted that the coverage had reached a scale comparable to major international events, underscoring both the significance of the decision and the reach of modern media networks. In addition to mainstream media, alternative and independent news outlets provided diverse perspectives. Some outlets focused on potential legal challenges, examining whether Harry and Meghan might contest the decision or seek mediation. Others highlighted cultural and societal dimensions, exploring how public opinion could influence the monarchy's long-term relevance and engagement with younger generations. Commentators drew attention to historical patterns of media scrutiny, suggesting that the public reaction would likely remain intense and polarized for weeks, if not months. Social scientists observed that the announcement had become a case study in celebrity, power, and institutional authority, with global audiences watching closely to see how traditional structures respond to contemporary pressures. The public's fascination was further fueled by visual media. Television networks broadcast clips of Prince William's announcement, edited footage of palace corridors, and archival images of Harry, Meghan, and the children. Graphics, timelines, and expert commentary were interwoven, creating a rich multimedia experience that amplified the impact of the news. Social media users recreated key moments through memes, video edits, and illustrative threads, ensuring that the story remained omnipresent across platforms. The visual dimension, combined with the speed of information dissemination, intensified both emotional engagement and the perceived immediacy of the event, demonstrating how modern media can transform a formal announcement into a pervasive, globally shared experience. Amidst the coverage, questions emerged about the long-term implications for the monarchy. Analysts debated whether the decision would consolidate support for the core royal family or deepen divisions among the public. Discussions about constitutional reform, public funding for royal activities, and the role of media in influencing perception became central to broader conversations about governance, tradition, and modernity. Cultural commentators suggested that the decision reflected a careful calculation of risk and reward, balancing the need for institutional authority with sensitivity to evolving public expectations. The global response, therefore, served not only as a measure of immediate reaction, but also as a lens through which the monarchy's ongoing relevance and adaptability could be assessed. In conclusion, the public reaction and global media coverage of Prince William's announcement revealed a world captivated by royal drama, institutional authority, and personal narrative. The immediacy and intensity of responses, from social media storms to analytical commentary, underscored the unique status of the British monarchy in contemporary society. The polarized opinions, international scrutiny, and unprecedented media attention highlighted both the challenges and opportunities facing a centuries-old institution navigating modern expectations. Through it all, one thing became clear. The announcement that Harry, Meghan, and their children would be permanently removed from succession was more than a family matter. It had become a global event, reshaping conversations about tradition, authority, and the enduring power of public fascination with royalty. The world waited with bated breath as attention turned to how Harry and Meghan would respond to the seismic announcement. Given the permanent nature of the banishment and the stripping of royal privileges, the stakes were higher than ever. Speculation ran rampant about whether the couple would release an official statement, engage the press through interviews, or maintain silence. Sources close to the Sussexes suggested that the couple had anticipated a stern decision from Prince William, yet the formality and permanence of the announcement reportedly shocked them. For weeks, private discussions had taken place among their advisors, legal teams, and close confidants to prepare a strategy that would navigate public perception, personal dignity, and the welfare of their children. Within hours of the announcement, Harry and Meghan's official spokesperson issued a carefully worded statement. The tone of the statement was measured, blending acknowledgement of the gravity of the situation with an emphasis on family loyalty and personal resilience. They thanked Prince William for the clarity and decisiveness of his decision, while subtly hinting at the emotional toll it had taken on the couple. The statement highlighted their ongoing commitment to charitable work, their children's welfare, and the importance of maintaining personal integrity amidst unprecedented scrutiny. Analysts dissected every word, noting the careful balance between respect for the monarchy and an assertion of independence, which mirrored the narrative the Sussexes had cultivated over the years. Media strategists speculated that Harry and Meghan would leverage selective interviews to present their side of the story to international audiences, particularly in the United States, where public sympathy could be a critical factor in shaping perception. News outlets with established royal reporting teams immediately reached out for comment, while social media began circulating snippets of speculation about potential press conferences or televised addresses. Industry insiders suggested that the Sussexes would prioritize emotionally resonant narratives, drawing attention to their children and emphasizing themes of fairness, family, and personal values. The goal, it was said, was to humanize themselves in a moment where global scrutiny could easily skew perception toward sensationalism or criticism. Initial interviews, conducted with trusted media partners, revealed a carefully orchestrated communication strategy. Meghan, speaking from their California residence, appeared composed yet visibly affected, choosing her words with precision. She acknowledged the difficulty of the moment, while underscoring the importance of protecting her children from undue stress and media intrusion. Harry, meanwhile, spoke with a tone of measured calm, emphasizing his commitment to maintaining dignity and privacy while addressing the broader implications of the banishment. Both interviews were designed not only to respond to the immediate news, but also to frame subsequent conversations about succession, privilege, and the public's understanding of their family dynamics. Their messaging focused heavily on children's welfare, with repeated references to Archie and Lilibet. Statements highlighted the couple's intention to shield them from media speculation and preserve their well-being despite the exclusion from succession. Experts in child psychology commented that this focus was deliberate, aiming to generate empathy while redirecting public attention from controversy to human interest. Analysts observed that this tactic often resonated deeply with global audiences, particularly in North America, where parental responsibility and emotional intelligence are central to public admiration and support. By framing the story around their children, Harry and Meghan not only protected their family's image, but also created a narrative that could endure scrutiny while maintaining a sympathetic lens for their personal brand. The Sussexes also addressed the media narrative surrounding privilege and responsibility. They acknowledged the importance of tradition within the monarchy, but questioned the fairness of a permanent, public banishment. By invoking principles of empathy and mutual respect, they positioned themselves as advocates for a modern interpretation of royal duty, one that prioritized personal well-being, transparency, and a nuanced understanding of family dynamics over rigid adherence to outdated protocols. This messaging drew particular attention from international audiences, where notions of fairness and individual rights are often foregrounded in discussions of public figures. Analysts noted that framing the announcement in this way allowed the Sussexes to maintain credibility while subtly challenging the royal institution to evolve. Throughout their response, Harry and Meghan's communications emphasized consistency and timing. Advisors reportedly monitored every major outlet, social media platform, and public discussion to gauge reception and refine messaging in real time. Press releases were carefully scheduled, and selective excerpts were shared in controlled environments to minimize misinterpretation or sensationalism. Legal experts consulted with the couple to ensure that statements did not violate any agreements, protocols, or privacy considerations. The meticulous nature of this approach suggested a recognition that missteps could amplify criticism, create lasting reputational damage, and potentially affect their financial and philanthropic ventures. Every sentence, gesture, and public appearance was strategically designed to project calm, control, and deliberate thoughtfulness. Despite careful planning, the emotional undercurrent was undeniable. Observers noted subtle cues in Harry and Meghan's interviews, tightened expressions, careful pauses, and controlled tones that reflected the weight of being publicly and permanently severed from the line of succession. Media analysts highlighted that these signals communicated both vulnerability and strength, reinforcing a narrative of dignified resilience. Discussions among communication experts centered on the delicate balance between projecting authority and exposing genuine human emotion, with many noting that the Sussexes had mastered this interplay in prior public appearances. The decision to include personal reflections, anecdotes about parenting, and references to shared family values contributed to a compelling and relatable portrayal. International media picked up on the strategic contrasts in Harry and Meghan's responses. Outlets in Europe, Asia, and Africa emphasized the contrast between the couple's measured demeanor and the perceived decisiveness of Prince William's announcement. Analysts suggested that this juxtaposition could influence global perceptions of the monarchy, as audiences evaluated not only the actions of the heir, but also the dignity and composure of those removed from succession. Some commentators speculated that this response might serve to reinforce Harry and Meghan's brand as modern, empathetic figures who navigate the pressures of public life while maintaining personal integrity, a stark contrast to the traditional, often stoic representation of royalty in official communications. Social media amplified these analyses, with clips from interviews, behind-the-scenes photos, and carefully selected quotes circulating widely. Memes, commentary threads, and viral posts reflected both support and criticism, underscoring the polarized nature of public opinion. Advocacy groups for mental health, parenting, and social fairness highlighted portions of the interviews, drawing attention to the emotional intelligence displayed by the couple. Conversely, critics dissected phrasing, tone, and body language, suggesting that the responses were calculated and lacked genuine remorse or humility. The dynamic online discourse highlighted how every word and gesture could be interpreted differently, reinforcing the complexity of managing public relations in a moment of high-profile familial tension. Legal and constitutional experts also weighed in on Harry and Meghan's statements. Some questioned whether public remarks challenging the permanence of the banishment could influence future negotiations or legal remedies, while others suggested that the couple's strategy was primarily reputational, aiming to maintain influence in charitable, commercial, and media ventures without directly contesting the decision. Analysts highlighted that the statements were crafted to navigate a fine line between public empathy and respect for institutional authority, a delicate task requiring coordination among legal counsel, media advisors, and communication specialists. Every element of the public response appeared meticulously aligned to project professionalism, emotional resonance, and credibility. Observers also noted the strategic use of media outlets with sympathetic audiences. Interviews and statements were often released through platforms known for supportive or balanced coverage, ensuring that key messages reached receptive audiences first. By doing so, the Sussexes shaped the initial narrative, framing their perspective before more critical or sensationalist reporting could dominate. Analysts suggested that this approach was informed by lessons learned from previous media encounters, where misinterpretation or selective reporting had previously amplified controversy. The controlled, proactive approach demonstrated an evolution in media strategy, emphasizing preparation, timing, and audience targeting as critical components of modern public communication. In conclusion, Harry and Meghan's response to the banishment was a careful blend of strategy, emotion, and narrative control. By focusing on children, emphasizing fairness, and projecting resilience, the couple sought to balance empathy with dignity. Their statements, interviews, and media engagements reflected a deep understanding of public perception, legal considerations, and the emotional dynamics of family conflict under global scrutiny. Analysts, commentators, and audiences alike were captivated by the interplay of personal narrative, institutional authority, and strategic messaging. In a world where every word is amplified and every gesture is analyzed, Harry and Meghan's response showcased both the challenges and opportunities of navigating a historic, highly publicized familial decision. The permanent removal of Harry, Meghan, and their children from the line of succession sent shockwaves not only through the royal family, but across constitutional, political, and social spheres. While the announcement made by Prince William was framed as a decisive act to preserve the integrity of the monarchy, its implications reach far beyond family dynamics. At the heart of the matter lies the question of succession itself, a centuries-old system designed to ensure continuity of the crown, maintain national stability, and uphold centuries of tradition. By excising a direct member of the royal family, William set a precedent whose reverberations would be analyzed for decades, both legally and socially. In the United Kingdom, succession is governed by a combination of constitutional law, common law, and historical precedent. The line of succession determines the order in which members of the royal family may ascend to the throne. Traditionally, these rules are rigid, emphasizing primogeniture and lineage, but they also involve discretion in cases of misconduct, public scandal, or abdication. While there have been historical instances of temporary disinheritance or removal from official duties, a permanent exclusion of an entire nuclear family from succession is virtually unprecedented. Constitutional scholars quickly began to dissect the legal framework that permitted such a banishment, evaluating whether William acted within personal discretion, in consultation with the monarch, or by invoking broader legal statutes that govern royal conduct. The implications for the monarchy as an institution are multifaceted. First, the line of succession now shifts dramatically. With Harry and his descendants removed, the focus intensifies on the remaining heirs, particularly Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. The younger generation, already under intense public scrutiny, now bears an even greater symbolic and practical burden. Analysts noted that the acceleration of responsibilities for George and Charlotte could influence future public expectations, shaping the narrative of a monarchy led by a narrower branch of the family. Moreover, the move raises questions about institutional stability. By removing a senior figure who was widely recognized internationally, the monarchy risks both domestic and global backlash, with public opinion potentially shifting in unpredictable ways. Political commentators emphasize the broader constitutional and diplomatic implications. As a constitutional monarchy, the British royal family operates within a framework that balances ceremonial leadership, public service, and adherence to national law. The removal of Harry and Meghan could set a precedent that blurs the line between personal discretion of heirs and institutional authority. If a future monarch were to take similar actions against other members, questions about abuse of power, fairness, and transparency might arise. Additionally, international partners and Commonwealth nations, many of which recognize the British monarch as head of state, may reassess their own ceremonial ties and allegiances, even if symbolically, to a monarchy that appears willing to make radical, highly public decisions regarding succession. Public perception and media reaction play a critical role in determining the long-term impact on the monarchy. Historically, royal controversies, such as abdications, divorces, or public scandals, have had profound effects on popularity, public trust, and the monarchy's perceived legitimacy. The decision to permanently exclude a prominent royal family member is unprecedented in the modern era, and it raises questions about transparency, fairness, and the balance between tradition and adaptation. Public opinion polls conducted shortly after the announcement revealed a stark division. Some segments applauded the decisiveness, viewing it as a necessary action to maintain the monarchy's credibility, while others criticized it as excessive, punitive, or indicative of deeper familial dysfunction. Sociologists noted that the ruling class, by taking such a strong stance, risked alienating a generation of supporters who value empathy, inclusivity, and public accountability. From a historical perspective, comparisons to prior royal exclusions illuminate the uniqueness of this decision. While Edward VIII famously abdicated the throne to Mary Wallis Simpson, or Prince John's early death altered succession plans unexpectedly, these events were isolated and largely circumstantial. The Sussexes' removal differs fundamentally because it is deliberate, permanent, and involves a family unit rather than a single individual. Experts in monarchy studies argue that this could mark a turning point in the evolution of royal governance, where internal family decisions are openly tied to public perception and media scrutiny rather than remaining private, discreet, and ceremonial. The Sussex banishment thus may be referenced in future discussions of monarchy reform, succession planning, and institutional resilience. The effect on public rituals and ceremonial functions is also significant. With Harry and Meghan and their children permanently removed, their absence is likely to be noticeable at major events such as Trooping the Colour, Remembrance Day ceremonies, and state visits. Historically, participation in these events has reinforced the sense of unity within the royal family and provided symbolic reassurance to the public. By removing them, William effectively alters the visual and symbolic narrative of continuity. Observers note that this decision could lead to new ceremonies or altered traditions, with a tighter focus on the remaining senior royals. Furthermore, their absence may embolden critics of the monarchy who question its relevance or critique its handling of family disputes, potentially impacting both domestic legitimacy and international image. Internationally, the move has sparked intense scrutiny. Media outlets in the United States, Europe, and Asia framed the banishment as a dramatic rupture, highlighting the tensions between personal choice, public duty, and family loyalty. Comparisons emerged to Hollywood families and political dynasties, drawing attention to the modern expectations placed upon public figures and the challenges of maintaining privacy in an era of pervasive media. Experts on monarchy and diplomacy emphasize that such decisions, while internally focused, have external consequences, potentially affecting soft power, diplomatic relationships, and even tourism, one of the monarchy's indirect economic influences. Countries with historical ties to Britain may interpret the decision as a sign of modernizing authority, while others may view it as an inflexible, punitive approach that undermines traditional cohesion. The psychological impact on both the royal family and the public cannot be understated. Within the family, tensions are likely to persist, as trust and collaboration are strained by the banishment. Future interactions between the royal household and the Sussexes are anticipated to be limited, formalized, and highly scrutinized, with advisors ensuring no missteps occurred during ceremonial, charitable, or public events. For the public, the banishment introduces a narrative of conflict, betrayal, and power struggle, which has both fascination and emotional resonance. The juxtaposition of duty and personal relationships evokes a broader reflection on loyalty, fairness, and the human cost of institutional obligations. This narrative is likely to dominate both traditional and social media, shaping discourse for months or even years. In addition, the financial and operational implications are significant. The Sussexes' exclusion entails the withdrawal of royal privileges, funding, and security provisions, requiring careful recalibration of estate management, staff allocation, and resource distribution. Analysts note that the royal household will need to adjust both logistics and public messaging to account for the permanent absence, ensuring continuity of operations while managing public expectations. Discussions surrounding the use of taxpayer funds for royal activities, the independence of the remaining heirs, and the broader economic impact of royal representation are likely to gain renewed attention. The constitutional dialogue surrounding succession reform is expected to intensify. Legal scholars highlight that while this decision falls within a discretionary space of royal authority, it may trigger discussions about codifying clear rules for future exclusions, reinstatements, or modifications to the line of succession. Parliament, although not directly involved in family decisions, may engage in public hearings, debates, or inquiries to ensure transparency and public accountability, particularly in light of high-profile controversies that blur personal and institutional boundaries. In conclusion, the permanent banishment of Harry, Meghan, and their children reshapes the monarchy in profound and multifaceted ways. Succession is no longer merely a linear, ceremonial process. It is a public, highly scrutinized, and emotionally charged event with far-reaching implications. The decision affects public perception, ceremonial participation, constitutional precedent, family dynamics, financial considerations, and global reputation. It creates a complex interplay between tradition and modernity, authority and empathy, public duty and personal choice. Analysts, historians, and citizens alike will study this moment as a watershed event, examining its consequences for generations to come. The monarchy now faces a critical juncture, whether to consolidate, modernize, or navigate a new balance between public scrutiny and familial discretion. The future of the institution may depend on its ability to maintain legitimacy, manage internal tensions, and evolve in response to unprecedented challenges. One thing is certain: the exclusion of the Sussexes is more than a family matter. It is a defining moment that will shape the royal narrative for decades, challenging assumptions about duty, privilege, and the delicate art of ruling in an age of constant observation. The announcement of Harry, Meghan, and their children being permanently removed from succession triggered an unprecedented wave of public and media reaction, both domestically and internationally. The news spread like wildfire, dominating headlines across newspapers, websites, and social media platforms, igniting debates, speculation, and fierce commentary from journalists, political analysts, royal experts, and ordinary citizens alike. Within hours of Prince William's declaration, social media was flooded with hashtags, trending topics, and thousands of opinionated posts, reflecting the deep emotional resonance and controversy surrounding the decision. In the United Kingdom, the public response was polarizing. A segment of the population praised William for taking decisive action to protect the monarchy's integrity and preserve the stability of the line of succession. Commentators in leading national newspapers framed the move as a necessary step to safeguard tradition, emphasizing that the monarchy's legitimacy depends on the perception of order, unity, and adherence to centuries-old rules. Supporters argued that, given the Sussexes' continued public commentary, media appearances, and allegations against the royal household, their permanent removal was a logical response, signaling that accountability and discretion are paramount in a constitutional monarchy. On the other hand, critics in the UK expressed outrage, describing the move as draconian, overly punitive, and reflective of lingering familial grudges. Opinion columns and editorial pieces in prominent newspapers debated whether the decision reflected an outdated adherence to protocol at the expense of compassion and fairness. Some commentators highlighted the global influence and charitable contributions of Harry and Meghan, questioning whether the permanent banishment could alienate supporters and create long-term damage to the monarchy's public image. Social media platforms, especially Twitter and Instagram, became hotbeds of emotional debate, with users sharing personal anecdotes, polls, and emotional reactions ranging from praise to condemnation. Influencers, celebrities, and public figures weighed in, amplifying the conversation and ensuring that the topic remained at the forefront of public discourse. Internationally, reactions were equally intense and varied. In the United States, the media framed the story as a dramatic rupture within one of the world's most iconic families, drawing parallels to celebrity feuds and political dynasties. Popular television networks produced live segments analyzing the historical significance of the banishment, interviewing royal experts, former palace aides, and legal analysts to provide context. Analysts noted that the decision reinforced the perception of the British royal family as both influential and enigmatic, capable of making monumental decisions with far-reaching consequences. The narrative resonated strongly in the U.S. partly due to Meghan's American roots, adding a personal dimension that amplified media coverage and public interest. In Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, countries where the British monarch serves as head of state, the decision sparked discussions about the role of the monarchy in contemporary governance. News outlets in these Commonwealth nations debated whether the exclusion of Harry and Meghan might influence national conversations about republicanism, modernization of the monarchy, and the relationship between ceremonial leadership and public perception. Interviews with constitutional experts emphasized that, while the decision is largely symbolic, the optics of a divided family can influence national sentiment, potentially affecting tourism, charitable initiatives, and cultural engagement with the royal family. Royal commentators and biographers quickly mobilized to contextualize the announcement, tracing the historical precedents and comparing the banishment to past royal exclusions. Some historians drew parallels to Edward VIII's abdication in 1936, though they noted critical differences. Whereas Edward voluntarily relinquished the throne to Mary Wallis Simpson, Harry and Meghan's removal was imposed, permanent, and extended to their children. Other experts referenced historical instances where family members were temporarily sidelined due to scandal or political considerations, highlighting that the Sussexes situation represents a unique, modern case in which media presence, international influence, and public perception all played pivotal roles. Social media offered a particularly vivid window into public sentiment. Hashtags such as #SussexBanishment, #RoyalDecision, and #William vs. Harry trended globally within hours, reflecting the breadth and intensity of engagement. Some users celebrated the move, emphasizing the importance of loyalty, discipline, and accountability within a hereditary institution. Others voiced support for Harry and Meghan, portraying the banishment as unjust, overly harsh, or politically motivated within the royal family. Memes, reaction videos, and viral posts proliferated, blending humor, outrage, and speculation, and contributing to an ongoing narrative that transcended traditional media boundaries. In addition to ordinary citizens, global celebrities and public figures added fuel to the debate. American actors, influencers, and former colleagues of Meghan weighed in, some defending her contributions to humanitarian causes and charitable efforts, others criticizing her perceived media manipulation or influence on Harry. British public figures, including politicians, journalists, and commentators, expressed strong opinions on both sides, highlighting the tension between tradition and modernity, duty and personal freedom, and institutional authority versus individual agency. High-profile interviews and op-eds offered detailed analyses of what the decision meant for the monarchy, the public, and the wider international audience, making it clear that the Sussex banishment would dominate discussions for months. The financial media also weighed in, examining potential implications for the royal household's finances, tourism, and charitable initiatives. Analysts noted that Harry and Meghan, with their global influence, had attracted sponsorships, media deals, and charitable attention that indirectly benefited the royal brand. Their exclusion might impact public interest in royal events, including tours, public appearances, and fundraising campaigns. Some experts speculated that the monarchy would need to recalibrate its public relations strategy, ensuring continued engagement with both domestic and international audiences while managing the perception of a family under scrutiny. Political commentary emerged as another dimension of the reaction. Lawmakers, constitutional experts, and diplomats considered whether the exclusion might influence discussions about the monarchy's role in governance, ceremonial duties, and symbolic representation. Questions arose regarding the potential for legal challenges, debates in parliamentary committees, and considerations of constitutional reform, particularly if the Sussexes sought any formal recourse. While the likelihood of overturning the decision was debated, the mere discussion highlighted the significant public and institutional interest in succession, family conduct, and the monarchy's adaptation to modern expectations. Emotional narratives also dominated the media landscape. Many outlets focused on the human dimension, exploring how the decision affected Harry, Meghan, and their children personally. Discussions included the emotional weight of being permanently removed from the family's public and ceremonial life, the strain on personal relationships, and the psychological impact of public scrutiny. In-depth features detailed Harry's and Meghan's previous media interactions, charitable work, and public appearances, framing the banishment as both a personal tragedy and a public spectacle. Public empathy emerged strongly in certain circles, particularly among younger audiences who expressed admiration for the couple's efforts to balance personal autonomy with public duty. Analyses of the reactions themselves became a meta-narrative. Media outlets and commentators documented how different segments of society responded, exploring generational, geographic, and cultural divides in opinion. Social psychologists highlighted patterns in online discourse, noting that debates often mirrored broader societal questions about authority, family loyalty, celebrity influence, and institutional trust. In a sense, the reactions to the banishment became a story in themselves, demonstrating the power of media, public opinion, and narrative framing in shaping collective perception of royal decisions. Overall, the media and public reaction underscored the global significance of the Sussexes' removal from the line of succession. Beyond family drama, it represents a complex interplay of tradition, modernity, institutional authority, public perception, and international attention. By dominating headlines and social media trends, the announcement illuminated the challenges facing a centuries-old institution navigating the pressures of a highly connected, opinionated, and globally engaged audience. In the days and weeks following the announcement, continued coverage, analyses, and commentary ensured that the ramifications of the banishment remained at the forefront of public discourse, shaping not only perceptions of the royal family, but also the evolving narrative of monarchy in the 21st century. The ongoing conversation, filled with speculation, outrage, and admiration, demonstrates that the Sussex banishment is not merely a family matter. It is a public, political, cultural, and social event of global significance. Its reverberations will continue to unfold, influencing future decisions, shaping public perception, and providing endless material for historians, journalists, and royal enthusiasts eager to document one of the most dramatic chapters in recent monarchical history. The world watched, reacted, and continues to debate, marking a defining moment in the story of the British monarchy, where personal choices, institutional authority, and public opinion collide in dramatic, far-reaching ways. The announcement of their permanent removal from the line of succession was not only a historic moment for the monarchy, but also a deeply personal shock for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Within minutes of the news breaking, royal aides and media outlets scrambled to ascertain how the Sussexes might respond, both publicly and privately. Historically, Harry and Meghan have maintained a complex relationship with the media, alternating between measured statements, public interviews, and carefully curated social media posts. The challenge this time was magnified. The stakes were higher, the audience global, and the implications permanent. Initial reports indicated that Harry and Meghan were physically in California at the time the announcement was made. Sources close to the couple described a tense atmosphere within their Montecito estate, where advisors, legal representatives, and personal confidants were mobilized to help navigate the fallout. According to insiders, the couple spent the first hours in shock and disbelief, grappling with the reality that their children, Archie and Lilibet, were also being permanently excluded from royal privileges. The emotional impact was described as profound, with both Harry and Meghan reportedly moving between anger, frustration, and sadness. Within hours, Meghan issued a brief statement via a trusted intermediary, emphasizing her commitment to privacy and the well-being of her children. The statement struck a delicate balance, acknowledging the historic nature of the announcement while maintaining a firm stance against what she described as public attempts to control and diminish our family. Meghan's words, though carefully measured, carried an unmistakable undertone of defiance, signaling that the couple would continue to assert their agency and maintain independence despite the formal severance from royal privileges. Legal experts noted that issuing a statement in this manner was a calculated move to preserve their narrative and public image, while minimizing immediate legal or political repercussions. Harry's initial response was less formal but equally significant. Close friends and aides reported that he immediately began reaching out to trusted advisors within the United States and the United Kingdom to discuss potential next steps. Sources suggest that Harry spent considerable time weighing the balance between public commentary and private negotiation, understanding that any misstep could exacerbate the already tense situation. The prince reportedly expressed deep concern over the impact of the banishment on his children, emphasizing that his focus was on protecting Archie and Lilibet from the fallout of a highly publicized family rift. Social media quickly became a platform for unofficial statements and expressions of solidarity. Within hours of the announcement, Harry and Meghan's supporters flooded Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook with messages of encouragement, sharing quotes, videos, and images that framed the couple as resilient figures facing an institutional challenge. Influencers and commentators sympathetic to the Sussexes began producing analysis videos, dissecting the language of William's announcement and contrasting it with Harry and Meghan's previous public statements. The narrative emerging in these circles suggested a stark dichotomy: the royal family as a rigid, tradition-bound institution versus Harry and Meghan as modern, independent figures navigating a new media landscape. Despite their public calm, private reactions were reportedly intense. Sources close to the couple indicated that Meghan convened a small circle of advisors to discuss legal recourse, potential public messaging, and ways to safeguard the children's well-being. Harry, meanwhile, focused on long-term planning, considering the implications for future charitable endeavors, media projects, and potential business ventures that could support the family's independence. Confidential communications reportedly revealed a combination of strategic calculation and genuine emotional distress, highlighting the tension between managing public perception and coping with personal upheaval. In addition to strategic considerations, personal reflections dominated much of their initial reaction. Friends described moments of introspection and emotional vulnerability as Harry and Meghan confronted the stark reality of being permanently distanced from the institution into which Harry was born. Accounts from confidants suggest that Meghan, in particular, reflected on her journey from Hollywood actress to duchess and now to a figure navigating the complexities of a global family feud. For Harry, the announcement evoked memories of his mother, Princess Diana, and the public pressure she endured, heightening his awareness of the emotional stakes for his own children. The couple's communications team reportedly worked around the clock to craft language that would be firm, dignified, and strategic, while also resonating emotionally with supporters. Media experts noted that every statement, whether public or leaked privately, was analyzed for tone, phrasing, and potential political implications. This careful attention to messaging underscored the delicate position the Sussexes occupied. They needed to maintain credibility, protect their family, and navigate a historically unprecedented situation in which their official roles had been rescinded entirely. Experts on crisis management pointed out that the Sussexes' response was emblematic of a broader trend in modern celebrity and political communication. In the past, royal conflicts were often mediated through official channels, press offices, or limited interviews. In contrast, Harry and Meghan's approach leveraged a combination of official statements, social media engagement, and strategic leaks to sympathetic media outlets. This approach ensured that their perspective reached a global audience in real time, allowing them to shape public perception despite being formally excluded from the institution they were once fully part of. One particularly significant aspect of their response involved the children. Insider accounts emphasized that every public statement, private discussion, and strategic move was filtered through the lens of Archie and Lilibet's welfare. Harry reportedly insisted that the children's experiences remained shielded from media sensationalism, while Meghan coordinated with childcare professionals, educators, and security teams to minimize exposure to public scrutiny. This intense focus on family protection reflected both the couple's priorities and the unprecedented nature of the announcement, which not only severed their formal ties, but also thrust the children into a media narrative they could not control. Legal implications also dominated early discussions. Analysts noted that while the decision to remove Harry, Meghan, and their children from the line of succession is largely symbolic in terms of political power, it carries significant consequences in terms of inheritance, titles, and ceremonial privileges. Legal experts speculated on the potential for formal challenges, though the likelihood of reversing the decision was widely considered low. Nevertheless, the Sussexes reportedly explored all options, including the possibility of mediated discussions with senior family members, public statements advocating for reconsideration, and careful negotiation of future charitable and business ventures. Another dimension of their response involved outreach to international allies and supporters. Reports indicated that Harry and Meghan contacted prominent figures in the United States, Canada, and other Commonwealth countries to discuss public messaging, media strategy, and potential collaborative projects. These efforts were designed to reinforce their public image as independent, globally minded figures, capable of navigating the fallout without relying on the formal structures of the British monarchy. Analysts suggested that this strategy reflects a broader understanding of influence in the 21st century, where global networks, media presence, and public perception can rival the authority of traditional institutions. Psychological and emotional considerations were also central to the couple's response. Close friends and therapists reportedly worked with Harry and Meghan to manage stress, emotional volatility, and the potential long-term effects of public scrutiny on their family. Sources described moments of vulnerability, with both Harry and Meghan expressing frustration, grief, and determination in equal measure. These personal struggles were intertwined with strategic considerations, highlighting the dual reality of living in a global spotlight while contending with deeply personal family conflict. In subsequent days, Harry and Meghan's public appearances, though limited, were closely monitored. Statements released through formal channels emphasized resilience, a focus on charitable work, and a commitment to family, carefully avoiding direct criticism of the monarchy while signaling that they would not retreat into silence. Analysts observed that this approach balanced the need to maintain dignity, protect the family's interests, and communicate with a supportive audience without escalating tensions unnecessarily. Ultimately, the Sussexes' response combined emotional authenticity with strategic foresight. From private discussions to public statements, the couple demonstrated an acute awareness of the historical significance of the moment and the global attention it commanded. They navigated a complex landscape of media scrutiny, public opinion, and institutional authority, carefully managing both the immediate fallout and the long-term implications for their family's future. The decisions made in these early hours and days would shape their narrative for months, if not years, and provide a blueprint for how individuals in unprecedented circumstances can assert agency, protect loved ones, and engage with the world on their own terms. The response of Harry and Meghan serves as a testament to the delicate balance between personal emotion and public strategy, highlighting their unique position in history as figures caught between tradition and modernity, familial obligation, and individual autonomy. Their careful orchestration of public messaging, private negotiation, and global outreach underscores the sophistication of contemporary royal communication, while also revealing the very human emotions and stakes at the heart of one of the most dramatic developments in recent monarchical history. As the world continued to react to William's announcement, the Sussexes' measured yet resolute response became a defining aspect of the unfolding narrative, illustrating both the challenges and the resilience inherent in navigating life under the most intense scrutiny imaginable. The unprecedented announcement that Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and their children would be permanently removed from the line of succession and stripped of their royal privileges sent shockwaves not only through royal circles, but also across the legal and constitutional landscape of the United Kingdom. While the immediate public reaction focused on the personal and emotional consequences for the Sussexes, legal scholars and constitutional experts quickly began analyzing the ramifications of William's declaration. The questions were numerous and complex. What authority did Prince William, as heir apparent, have to enforce such a decision? What legal mechanisms exist to formalize a removal from the line of succession? And how would this decision interact with centuries-old laws, including the Act of Settlement of 1701 and the Royal Marriages Act of 1772? At the core of the legal discussion was the distinction between formal legal authority and symbolic power within the monarchy. Prince William, while holding the title of Prince of Wales and next in line to the throne, does not possess unilateral legislative authority to remove a family member from the line of succession. Traditionally, alterations to the succession require parliamentary action or the assent of the reigning monarch. Constitutional experts emphasize that any formal change would need to be enacted through an amendment, order, or statutory instrument recognized by the UK Parliament, and potentially consented to by the other Commonwealth realms where the British monarch serves as head of state. The announcement, therefore, was as much a public declaration as it was a precursor to formal legal action. Observers noted that the language used by the palace was deliberately strong and unequivocal, signaling intent while leaving room for legal formalities to follow. It conveyed to the public, to the media, and to the international community that the Sussexes' royal status was effectively nullified, even if the legal machinery required for absolute implementation would take months or potentially years to complete. Legal scholars described this as a strategic move. By framing the decision as immediate and irreversible in public discourse, the monarchy could exert moral and symbolic authority while navigating the slower constitutional processes. The role of King Charles III in this process was also critical. While William delivered the announcement, any constitutional changes impacting the line of succession ultimately require the monarch's assent. Experts noted that Charles's position was delicate, supporting his son's public announcement while ensuring that the process adhered to established legal and constitutional procedures. Analysts speculated that behind the scenes, discussions likely involved senior legal advisors, parliamentary counsel, and constitutional experts to determine the most appropriate and legally sound path forward. This balancing act highlights the intricate interplay between royal authority, legal formalities, and public perception, where missteps could invite both domestic and international scrutiny. One of the most immediate legal implications concerned the succession rights of Archie and Lilibet. As descendants of a monarch, their position in the line of succession carries potential constitutional significance. Removing them permanently not only affects ceremonial roles and privileges, but also raises questions about inheritance, trust funds, and long-term ceremonial responsibilities. Legal experts noted that, historically, removal from the line of succession was exceedingly rare and typically occurred only in cases of religious conversion, marriage without royal consent, or abdication. The Sussexes' situation represented a modern, politically charged scenario in which personal conduct, media behavior, and family dynamics intersected with constitutional law. A crucial aspect of the banishment was the impact on royal titles. While the Sussexes had previously relinquished formal duties, they retained the right to use their ducal titles, including Duke and Duchess of Sussex. William's announcement suggested a permanent stripping of not only succession rights, but also royal privileges, which may include official titles, ceremonial roles, and the use of certain honors. Legal advisors clarified that formal removal of titles would require either letters patent issued by the monarch or specific statutory measures to ensure that the action is legally binding and recognized across all relevant jurisdictions. Such processes can be protracted, involving consultation with multiple legal authorities to avoid challenges or ambiguities. The issue of residence and financial obligations also carried legal weight. While the Sussexes reside in the United States, their ties to the monarchy involve security provisions, funding for official travel, and access to resources traditionally reserved for members of the royal family. Analysts observed that a permanent banishment could trigger renegotiation or termination of financial arrangements, including allowances, security coverage, and access to royal estates. Legal teams would need to navigate contracts, trust agreements, and international jurisdictional issues, particularly since the couple maintains residences and business interests abroad. Another complex dimension involved the interplay between media law and defamation. Given the high-profile nature of the announcement, Harry and Meghan's legal representatives were reportedly preparing for potential misrepresentation or misreporting by global media outlets. Statements released by the palace, while carefully worded, were widely interpreted and disseminated through various news channels, often accompanied by commentary, speculation, or critical analysis. Legal experts noted that while freedom of the press is protected, statements made by the palace could influence public perception, and any inaccuracies could form the basis for defamation claims or other civil actions. The Sussexes legal team would need to monitor and respond to any coverage that they deemed damaging or misleading. Constitutional scholars also examined potential avenues for appeal or challenge. While direct reversal of the banishment appeared unlikely, questions arose regarding the extent to which Parliament or the monarch could consider mitigating circumstances, family reconciliation, or partial restoration of privileges. In theory, legal mechanisms could be invoked to provide conditional restoration, such as granting ceremonial roles without succession rights or allowing certain titles while maintaining other restrictions. However, any such process would require careful negotiation and agreement at the highest levels of constitutional and royal authority. The announcement also prompted debate about precedent. Historically, the British monarchy has navigated numerous internal crises, from abdications to scandals, but permanent removal of living family members from succession while stripping their children of future rights is virtually without precedent. Legal analysts compared the situation to historical cases involving political exile, religious conversion, or forced renunciation, noting both similarities and distinctions. In particular, the Sussexes' global media presence and financial independence introduced modern variables that complicate straightforward comparisons with past cases. The unprecedented nature of the situation ensures that legal scholars and constitutional historians will study it for years as a landmark moment in the evolution of monarchy in the modern era. International implications were another critical consideration. The British monarch serves as head of state in multiple Commonwealth realms, including Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Removing Harry, Meghan, and their children from the line of succession carries symbolic significance in these countries, which may require communication with local governments or consultation with legal authorities to ensure compliance with constitutional conventions. Observers noted that while the practical impact on day-to-day governance is minimal, the decision sets an international precedent for how royal authority is exercised across multiple jurisdictions, highlighting the interconnectedness of the monarchy in a global context. Security considerations intersected with legal implications as well. Permanent removal from royal status affects security protocols, funding for protection, and access to confidential information. Legal and security advisors reportedly collaborated to redefine protective measures for the Sussexes and their children, balancing safety concerns with the limitations imposed by the loss of formal royal authority. This coordination is complex, involving multiple agencies, international jurisdictions, and contractual obligations with private security firms. Finally, ethical and moral considerations intersected with legal questions. Scholars debated whether the decision represented a necessary assertion of royal authority, a punitive response to perceived public behavior, or a strategic measure to preserve institutional stability. Legal experts emphasized that while the action is legally permissible within certain parameters, it also reflects broader societal expectations regarding accountability, privilege, and family conduct. The announcement forces a reconsideration of how legal frameworks interact with human behavior, public perception, and the evolving role of monarchy in the modern world.